Welcome, everyone. We are talking about the cosmic balance of dark and light. Now, I'll start by saying what led me into this and even having this weigh on my mind is lately I've been diving into learning about Hellenistic astrology. And one of the first ideas that's presented is about diurnal or day charts versus someone that has a night or nocturnal chart, right? And at first I was like, oh, if you're born during the daytime, that gives you a day chart. But if you're born at night, then that gives you a night chart. That's not the case. Um, it's more so if your sun sign is above the horizon, then you are a day chart, diurnal. I'm trying to use the proper verbiage so that it begins to click as I start talking about it and putting it into practice. Um, Very, very deep, though, with the Hellenistic astrology, but it really made me start to think about light and dark. Of course, that's always been something that kind of rotates around me. But I feel like there's almost a deeper understanding about it. Um, the simple distinction, like whether or not you were born during the day or whether you're born at night or whether you have a day chart or a nocturnal chart, it's kind of opened this doorway or gateway, so to speak, about, a much bigger question. And that question being is, what does it really mean to actually live between the poles of light and dark? I talk a lot about the in-between space too. So this is kind of like a rabbit hole to all of that. And, I was kind of wondering, like, what is the cosmic balance between them? There's been thoughts kind of roaming in my mind about polarity, the law of polarity, and things like that. So, and I've had a couple of instances here lately to where the law of polarity has played a part. So it's got me kind of questioning certain things like how we manifest, how we, you know, um, work with our energies of light and dark. So astrology has kind of been a doorway into a deeper hole, a deeper learning of that distinction. So in Hellenistic astrology, the chart is divided into the day birth and the night birth. The diurnal chart, is when the sun is above the horizon and the sun itself is kind of considered like a guiding luminary. It's your sect light. And then the nocturnal chart is when the sun is below the horizon. And then the moon becomes your guiding light. That makes sense, right? Night and the moon, day and the sun. Pretty common sense, right? Um, but each sect has their own team of planets that kind of function more harmoniously. Like, for example, in day charts, Jupiter is going to become the greater benefic and it's going to be more stronger, more supportive, while like Saturn kind of softens a bit, becoming a teacher rather than like a burden. So in my case, that's true for me. I am a diurnal, I have a diurnal chart. Um, and Saturn has been a great teacher for me. Mars can be very harsh in a day chart. And then in the night charts, where Venus becomes the great benefic, um, and Mars kind of softens in this type of chart, acting more as a protector rather than like an aggressor. But Saturn in that chart tends to weigh a little bit heavier. So it really got me thinking, like, maybe this isn't just about astrology at all. Like, I feel like everything that I do and everything that I, start to venture into, there's always a rhyme and a reason for it. Even if it's meant to just show me this little something, or it could be something grand. Um, I feel like more so the energy between the day and the night charts in that openness to that astrology way. Maybe it's about, this eternal dance between light and dark itself. Um, I feel like I've been on a lifelong quest of like trying to balance those energies. It doesn't matter if we're talking about, masculine and feminine or light and dark, the yin and the yang. Um, Duality has been a pretty big theme in my life and the balance of those. So if we take a look at like balance across traditions, across so many wisdom traditions, we can see this teaching actually repeated as we see in astrology, as we see in just the essence or the energy of light and dark. Like, in Taoism, the yin and the yang, that symbol, you know what I'm talking about, shows how dark and light are not enemies, but they actually complement, the yin, the dark, the receptive, the inward force carries like a seed to the yang, the bright, the active, the outward force, and vice versa. Like they play off of each other. There's a great balance between the two. And then if we take a look at like Kabbalah, there's a teaching called the Simzum, um, which says that God had to contract and create a kind of dark space for the universe to actually exist. So darkness wasn't absence, it was necessary. And within that darkness sparks this divine light, and it's waiting to be lifted and revealed. It's almost like that darkness is palpable with life and equal to life and light itself. So there's a great balance even in Kabbalah teachings. If we take a look in like alchemical terms, the ancient science of transformation, yeah, I mean, if you practice the art of balance of light and dark in your day-to-day life in modern times, you are a modern day alchemist. So if we take a look at those ancient ways, the process kind of begins with the black, the nagrado, the blackening stage, and it's kind of where everything begins to fall apart. And then comes the albedo, the whitening or a purification, and then finally rubedo, which is the reddening. And that's kind of like wholeness. So, in other words, even in alchemical terms, you don't get to go to gold without going through the dark, the blackening stage. You don't get to hop from here without that balance of all components. Even in Christian mysticism, if we take a look at St. John of the Cross, he wrote about the dark night of the soul, not as like punishment, but kind of like a stripping away of false comforts, so that a true light can emerge. So, yeah, it's even found in that genre, those teachings. And I'm sure there are 101 other examples in the Bible as well. Jung and psychology, big on Carl Jung. We're actually reading A Man and His Symbols right now in a book club study on that, and it's very fascinating. We just got done with Carl Jung's chapter in that book. And, Jung said something very similar in psychology. He spoke about the shadow and the parts of ourselves that we repress on, we deny on, get away from me. I don't like that about myself. And he said the only way to become whole is to integrate the shadow, not destroy it. So without darkness, again, there is no depth. And without shadow, our light is kind of superficial. Sorry, I had to pop that off and back on, come back in to view. So, we can pull off numerous teachings, ancient, modern, psychological, um, spirituality. But what does all this mean for us, though? I feel like it kind of means that dark and light are not enemies. If you just look at the words dark and light, you could automatically assume or automatically think, oh, well, light needs to conquer the dark, or, team darkness, They're not enemies, though. They're not competitive. They are partners. The sun and the moon, the day and the night, the outward and the inward, or the conscious and the unconscious. So, really and truly, when we only want light, we kind of get brittle. It's all surface, there's no depth. Um, and I will say, too, from personal experience, when we only sink into the darkness, we can get lost. There's all potential, but no form. But when we hold them together, like the yin and the yang, like the sun and the moon in astrology, we can actually discover a sense of wholeness. We can see, sense, and feel that sensation in a completely different way within ourselves. So for me, Hellenistic astrology, the simple yet complicated idea of the sect, or the day and night charts, the diurnal and the nocturnal, the sun above or below the horizon, it kind of cracked open this universal truth for me. We are always, constantly, every second, every minute of the day, balancing the cosmic dance between the light and the dark inside of ourselves. And with that is without, outside of ourselves as well. So I guess my invitation to this whole video is for you to kind of challenge yourself, and instead of trying to banish the darkness, try to listen to it. See what you find, see what you feel. And maybe instead of trying to cling so tightly only to the light, try to ground into your shadow, because that is where true balance is. That is where you find true balance. That is where you alchemize. That is where you transform. That is where the ultimate balance is. The cosmic balance of dark and light. It isn't about choosing sides. It's about learning how to dance, right? And the more we learn to dance, the more we can actually embody the fullness of who we actually are, who we truly are. So yeah, that's my take on the cosmic, the cosmic truth, the cosmic balance of light and dark. I'm so open to seeing what else just diving into this knowledge brings about for me, and how it changes my views, maybe even on certain things. So until next time.